Lady Mayor, good morning. Good morning to everybody else. I'm not really sure how to follow a build-up like that from Eddie from the podium this morning. As Eddie has said, my name's Alan Todd. For those of you for whom the uniform doesn't give it away, the Police Service of Northern Ireland. My official title is I'm the Gold Police Lead for Giro d'Italia. It sounds very grand, but in effect what it means, if it goes really well, I'll just be happy to take the next day off. And if it goes really badly, well then you know where to find me. I wanted to spend a little bit of time this morning, because you have the information pack and it outlines road closures and information around events. I want to just give a little bit of context to that in terms of what it is we're trying to achieve in policing an event like this. And when I say policing, it's much wider than the police. We have Road Service and TransLink here today as some of our key partners. But we are all involved in a partnership across many agencies to try and make this all hang together. From a policing and police perspective, we're trying to do a number of things. As Eddie has said, we spent a little bit of time looking at this event up close and personal in Italy last year, and David, who stood at the back of the room, said something in Italy last year that stuck with me and we've used as a guiding principle for the Giro Gran Partenza in Northern Ireland. And David said, Alan, you've got to understand that the Giro d'Italia sees itself as a democratic, accessible event. It wants to be in touch with the people, in touch with the fans, and it wants to give fans and people an opportunity to touch Giro d'Italia. Parties, festivals, up-close racing. You'll have seen the videos. You'll have seen how many people come out to watch this. You'll have seen how close you can get to 200 of the world's elite athletes and cyclists. That is the spirit of Giro d'Italia. It is very democratic and very accessible, and clearly we want to facilitate and police the event that allows that to happen, and that's been a guiding principle in the work that we've taken on. That's not without its challenges, clearly. If you take the second, or the stage 2, which is the North Coast and this area, you're talking over 230 kilometres of a route. Given that there's two sides to most roads, that's effectively 500 kilometres of viewing space and footpath that have to be policed as part of the operation. Even if you wanted to, and we don't in the spirit of being an accessible event, you can't put every 500 kilometres of a route behind safety barriers. You want to give people access, you want people to get up close to the race, but you need it to be safe for them and safe for the athletes. And policing it in that manner is a significant challenge. Of course, that's just the policing of the event, because the event has its participants, not only the athletes, but the support crews and the vehicles, and probably some of the piece of the video I think is spectacular, and it does make the hairs in the back of my neck stand up, and I think the music is truly inspirational. But the piece that goes both in front of the race and behind, so you have the publicity caravan out in front, and you have all the support vehicles, team vehicles, and those of you who watch cycling will have seen the team cars and all the bikes on the roof, and the doctors' cars, and all the referees' cars, and the race commissaires. There's a huge entourage behind it, so it is a big piece of kit, frankly, moving along the roads. So that has to be done safely for those people, as well as the many thousands of people who we hope come out to support this event. Outside of that then, you have, I know it's hard to believe for me as a cycling fan, but apparently there will be people in Northern Ireland who have no interest in cycling whatsoever. I know they're very much the minority, but clearly, my heart goes out to them, frankly. But there are some people who aren't interested in cycling, people who want to go about their daily business on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So we have to try and balance what we're doing with the race about trying to minimise the disruption to the life of the rest of the province who aren't cycling fans, and just try to strike that balance. And with it sort of centred in the middle of that, then we have to make plans to ensure that where we have emergencies in or around the route, that we're able to respond to those across the emergency services as well. We can't just close roads and have a cycle race and forget that people will have medical emergencies that require the police, the ambulance, fire and rescue service and the other partners as well. So that's the sort of challenge that faces a policing operation like this. How do you provide for the safety of the spectators and participants and the entourage? How do you do that in a way that makes it an accessible event, And how do you do that in a way that doesn't completely disrupt the lives of everybody else who aren't cycling fans? I'm absolutely sure, depending on which of those constituents you place yourself in, we won't get everything right all of the time. You've seen Eddie's numbers, 140,000 people over 3 days and maybe more. Put them all into a small place like Northern Ireland along some narrow country roads. Add a drop of sunshine, maybe a bottle or two of beer, and then drop in 200 cyclists travelling at speed. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? And that's my role to try and balance those things off. You'll see in the information pack how we tend to achieve that. I'm going to touch a little bit on Friday, but for an audience like this, it's probably more about the Saturday, in fairness. They're 2 separate days. A team time trial where each team goes off 9 riders at a time, separated by, I think it's a 3-minute gap, maybe a 5-minute gap, depending on the organisers. It's a 27-kilometre route. That route will be closed in the morning for a practice session for 2 hours, so we'll probably close that route somewhere around 9:15, 9:30 onwards in Belfast. It'll be locked down until 12 o'clock. That allows people to go to their work beforehand, get to work, get to school, whatever it happens to be. Then after 9, it comes to shutdown. 12 o'clock, then we tend to open it again for 3.5 hours or thereabouts. And that's to allow people to take some pressure off the traffic system, to move about, and for those people who want to catch an early day, to do so. After 4 o'clock again, then we'll be shutting down the route again in Belfast for the race proper, starting at 5:45 on Friday evening. And it will remain closed until the final team crosses the line at Belfast City Hall. Obviously, we don't want to close 230-something kilometres of the roadway in the northeast of the province all day Saturday. This is about striking a balance. And the way we've tried to strike that balance is to schedule the road closures in what we refer to as a moving bubble. So the road closure will start out in front of the publicity caravan and move around the route. And then the caravan will follow in behind the road closure, and then there'll be a space and the race will fall in behind that, and then the entourage will follow in behind that. And as it clears any given point, we'll then reopen the roads. So this sort of bubble will move around the route during Saturday. As a working assumption, and it will vary, and you'll see from the numbers here, it will vary in its length and in its time. But as a working assumption, any part of the route where the cycle race passes can expect to see a road closure at the maximum of about 4 hours. So 4 hours from the road closing until it's reopened again. In some areas it will be shorter. But that's a sort of working assumption if it helps to have a round number in your head. Once the road's closed, you can expect it to be closed for that period of time. That gives me as the commander some reassurance that the route is safe in front of the caravan, that the caravan comes through, that it's kept safe behind the caravan, and then it's safe for the race to follow through after that. We're achieving that with a significant amount of police officer resource out and around the route. There'll be several hundred police officers deployed on Saturday, less so on Fridays because of the length of the route. That is a substantial commitment on behalf of the police service, but actually, in the scheme of things, it is being managed significantly downwards. And we've done that with a superb piece of work through the Volunteer Committee and Volunteer Now. We'll be using over 1,200 volunteers from across communities, cycling fans and non-cycling fans alike, across the province and further afield over the 3 days. And a huge number of those volunteers will be helping the policing operation throughout Saturday. And that's been a tremendous opportunity for us to engage people in the work of volunteerism, but also to get them up close and personal to the event and get community engagement right the way around the route. So you have people who, from towns and villages across Northern Ireland, are actually being volunteer marshals and volunteer stewards throughout the route over the 3 days. That allows us to have a much more efficient police operation, as well as involving a huge number of people in the actual wider policing of the event. And I think it's been a huge success, and my thanks go out to the people who organised that. The race finishes back in Belfast on Saturday night, and then Sunday, Armagh and Cross Border runs very much in the same principle as we did on day 2. In other words, it's the moving bubble, the road closure, followed by the caravan, followed by the race, followed by the road opening. Working assumption, that's a 4-hour gap. It will be shorter in some places. And that's because we close the roads off in sections. So if you have a house or a business or just at the end of the section when it's closed, then it'll obviously be the first piece to be open. So the front end of that section will probably get the full 4 hours, and the back end of the section probably less so. But that's the working assumption around that. There are full provisions made with the race organisers, the race commissar and the police control rooms that If within that 4-hour road closure there are medical or community emergencies, that we will respond to those in the same way that we always do, so that there's no disruption to emergency service provision. But there will be disruption. That's the downside of putting 140,000 people into a small place like Northern Ireland, not even the whole of Northern Ireland, into narrow country roads. There is going to be disruption, and whilst I can try and mitigate that and balance that, as I talked about earlier, can't avoid it. We have made plans to release it as best we can, but there will be disruption. So my advice to people is, if, like me, you're a great cycling fan and you want to get out and see and be part of this, then make your plans early, get up early, go early, get yourself a good place, enjoy your day. If you're not a cycling fan and you don't want to see the event or be around it, have a lie-in. Make plans for somewhere else that day. I'm emphasising for effect, but you know, if you want to go and be part of it, go early, and if you don't want to be caught on it, try and give it a wide berth. And that'll help me and my partners in Transit, Road Service and others who have been responsible for this wide-ranging operation to make it easier for everybody. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Roy particularly, who has worked tirelessly alongside the police team in a joint effort around the traffic management plan and the transport plan. Roy wanted, and our colleagues in Translink will want to not only promote but inform you around the public transport piece, because that's the other piece of advice that will come strongly from every speaker today. Those of you who want to go and see the race, as well as getting up early, planning early and going early, please use public transport to do so. That will also help take pressure off the system. And the folks coming after me will touch on the details of that. I'm going to be here afterwards for any specific questions that you have, but in the meantime, thanks very much for your attention, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.